What if a country's greatest strength was having no military at all? It sounds impossible, right? Especially in a part of the world that's often seen its fair share of conflict. But one nation made a choice that defied all logic. They laid down their weapons, not because they were surrendering, but because they had a different idea, a radical vision of what it means to be strong.
And this is the story of how that, let's face it, crazy choice created a modern-day marvel. This is what we call the Costa Rica paradox. So, to really get our heads around this paradox, we've got to start at the end. We need to look at the nation Costa Rica is today. You really have to see the success story to appreciate just how wild the journey was.
Okay, so by pretty much any measure you can think of, modern Costa Rica is a huge success. I mean, it's this beacon of stable democracy. It's got one of the highest human development scores in Latin America. It's a global leader in environmentalism. And, it's consistently ranked as one of the happiest places on Earth. But behind all that success, there's this one startling fact, a detail so unusual it changes the whole picture. Costa Rica does all of this with no army.
And let's be really clear here. We're not talking about some tiny defense budget or a few ceremonial guards. No. In 1949, Costa Rica abolished its military. Completely. Wrote it right out of the Constitution. They are one of the only sovereign nations on the entire planet to do this. Which, of course, just begs the question.
How in the world did this happen? How did a nation that a Spanish governor once called the poorest and most miserable colony manage to pull off such an incredible turnaround? Well, the answer, and this is the crazy part, isn't found in some long history of peace. It's found in a sudden violent war.
And here we are at the critical turning point in Costa Rica's story, a conflict that, instead of creating a cycle of more violence, would actually end it for generations to come.
You see, back in 1948, the country was torn apart by its bloodiest conflict of the 20th century. It was a civil war that lasted just 44 days, but it would change everything, forever.
So it all kicked off with a disputed election, which pretty quickly blew up into open warfare. A rebel army, led by a man named José Figueres Ferrer, won the war in just those 44 days. But it wasn't without a cost. Over 2,000 people died. And then, at the absolute peak of his power, Figueres did something nobody saw coming. Instead of building up his army like any other victorious leader would, he got rid of it. On December 1st, 1948, he famously took a sledgehammer to the wall of the army headquarters, a powerful symbol that the military was done. And just a year later, that idea was written right into the new constitution.
The thinking behind this was just revolutionary. There was this famous saying at the time that really captured the new vision. The army would be replaced with an army of teachers. See, this wasn't just about stopping war, it was about completely changing what the nation was all about.
So what does happen when a country stops spending all its money on soldiers and guns and starts spending it on its own people? Well, that brings us to something economists call the peace dividend.
Think about it. While most other nations were pouring cash into their militaries, Costa Rica started this massive, decades-long experiment. All the money that would have gone to tanks and weapons was rerouted. It was deliberately funneled into 3 new pillars for the country: education, healthcare, and the environment.
Let's just take education, for example. We're talking about roughly a quarter, 25% of the entire national budget going to education. Just let that sink in for a second. That army of teachers they talked about, they weren't kidding.
And the results of that investment, they're undeniable. Because education is free, universal, and guaranteed by the Constitution, the literacy rate shot up to 97%. They built a world-class universal healthcare system from scratch. And the result of all these choices? Well, today, Costa Ricans have one of the highest life expectancies in the world. Yeah, even higher than in the United States.
But that investment didn't just stop with schools and hospitals. By freeing up all that cash from the military budget, Costa Rica could afford to chase another huge dream: becoming a global leader for the environment.
Get a load of this number. In recent years, more than 99% of Costa Rica's electricity has been generated from renewable sources. I mean, they've gone for hundreds of days in a row running on nothing but clean energy. It's just a staggering achievement.
And their commitment here runs deep. They were the first tropical country to actually reverse deforestation. They brought their forests back. They basically invented the whole idea of ecotourism. They even came up with this brilliant system to pay landowners to protect the environment, treating a healthy ecosystem like a national treasure. And the big goal? To become one of the world's first totally carbon-neutral nation.
So when you make this massive shift in what your country cares about, from military power to the well-being of your people and planet, it creates something really unique. A whole national mindset, a culture that can be summed up in just two simple words.
Pura vida. It literally means pure life, but honestly, it's so much more than that. It's how you say hello, it's how you say goodbye. It can mean, how are you, or everything's awesome. It's this whole philosophy of a simple, relaxed, positive way of looking at the world. It's really the cultural echo of a nation that decided to walk a different path.
And this whole pura vida thing, it's not just a nice feeling. You can actually see it in the data. There's something called the Happy Planet Index. It measures how well a country provides long, happy lives for its people without trashing the planet. And guess what? Costa Rica is consistently right at the top, beating out a ton of much wealthier countries. It's a powerful argument that maybe, just maybe, we're measuring success all wrong.
And that really is the heart of the paradox, isn't it? The prosperity, the green leadership, the peace, that whole Pura Vida vibe, you can trace it all back to one single incredibly audacious bet that was made over 70 years ago. A bet that investing in people would make a nation stronger than any army ever could.
You know, the story goes that Christopher Columbus called it the rich coast, La Costa Rica, because he thought he saw locals wearing gold. But it turned out the colony was poor. It didn't really have any precious metals. Which leaves us with one final thought to chew on. What if, by giving up the usual search for power and wealth, Costa Rica accidentally discovered a treasure far more valuable than gold?